It's a very difficult time, and we're seeing that across every connection point to our residents, whether it is the increased need for mental health supports within our school system or with our seniors, or as some of the crisis calls coming in to the Boston Police and first responders reflect an intensity of need for mental health supports. So, in my part, I know in my family we have traditions that we celebrate every year that still feel different now and still feel different for the second year in a row in terms of the holiday season, and it just feels like this is going on and on and on. I really want to emphasize that even though there are many things now that remind us of where we were a year ago, with the beginning of a winter surge, with the call for everyone to be careful and safe, we are in a very different place right now. We are in a much more hopeful and empowered place because vaccinations are widely available to everyone, because we are seeing more and more increase in the supply and availability of testing. And so those tools are within our reach right now. We just have to make sure we are staying, I know I can hear Dr. Ojakutu, hopeful but vigilant, not alarmed, hopeful but vigilant, in making sure that we're enjoying each other in a safe way, being together with public health as an extra consideration. And the burden really shouldn't be on residents to feel like you're not doing the right thing, or you're being discouraged, or you're not supposed to have any fun or not celebrate. This is a joyful time for the city, and that's why city government, from the Boston Public Health Commission, all of our public safety and first responders, agencies, our arts and tourism and special events agencies, we are all here to work as hard as we possibly can to make these celebrations safe. And so the reality is that we are not out of this pandemic, and we won't be out of this pandemic tomorrow or next week or next month. We need to continue taking precautions, but as we learn to live with the pandemic and reduce the risk of activities, we're not headed back for another replay of the worst that we've gone through. I think in the next couple weeks, I'm going to spend some time going to visit some of our hospitals and community health centers just to check in and say thank you to our first responder and essential workers in our healthcare workforce. Many of our workers across the city, essential workers, have been at this for nearly 2 years. They are exhausted. They're seeing hospitalizations continue to creep up. We are hearing tremendous stress from those who have been at the front lines, even more intensely than those of us who've had the privilege and the luxury of working remotely in some ways. And so, for their sake, for our workers who have no choice but to be saving lives at the front lines every single day, we all need to step up and make sure we're taking care of each other. The vast majority of people who are being hospitalized right now are not vaccinated. When you are vaccinated, yes, there's still a chance you can get COVID, but the symptoms are much less serious, and you are much less likely to pass it on to someone else or to need to go to the hospital yourself. And so when we're talking about our city workforce, when we're talking about employees and patrons at restaurants and gyms and entertainment venues, this is really about how we take a big step forward in moving towards that light at the end of the tunnel. Every time that someone is a City of Boston employee who is not vaccinated, and people have various reasons for not feeling comfortable and not wanting to do that, right? Although we are, again, 90% vaccinated at the City of Boston. But for every person who is not vaccinated, who needs then to go to the hospital because they've contracted COVID, who is drawing on the resources of our healthcare system, of our health insurance system, of taxpayer dollars, this is something that we need to start taking action towards. And so every one of us is connected to everyone else in our communities, and it's a moment of celebration to realize not how bleak it can feel stressful, but actually how empowered we are to make a difference not only for ourselves, but for every single person we care about, who we might not even know, but we're sitting next to on the T, or working next to in our offices, or coming in to interact with across the city. You can do something to keep everyone in our community safe, and that is to get vaccinated, get boosted, and make sure your whole family is doing the same. Mental health? No. Okay. Great. Thank you, everyone.